It recognizes our belief in God, our country, not just individuals, our country, our founding fathers codified this in the documents that founded this country. Our reliance, our belief in God, and our reliance upon God. Of that, there's just no debate on that. You may like it, may not like it. Declaration of Independence, we find these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, of which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It goes on in the Constitution to say we are putting together this Constitution in a preamble to secure the blessings, not only for ourselves, for posterity. And that Constitution followed with a Bill of Rights that enumerated those godly rights given to man, including the very first one, which was the right to believe in God and to express that belief anytime, anywhere, including the public square.
33 million. It's proven to the money investors that people want something to feed their souls, not just their worst desires.
Absolutely.
And
yes, indeed.
This kind of sums up my entire dialogue career on the heat of the night. You ready for this? Okay, this is it. My 7 years on the heat of the night. My dialogue all summarized into this. Get right on it, Chief.
Skinner, but Bubba's my name. I like my iced tea sweet and my women the same. I'm your brown-haired badge here in little old Sparta, but nobody's bigger or tougher or smarter. If you're looking to fight, best not be with me. Gonna be held tight, well now we'll just see. You never know in the heat of the night on TNT. Heat of the night on TNT. Now I don't put on any airs, but then I ain't no slob. Just a redneck boy with a blue-collar job. The ladies I date, they gonna have 'em some fun, 'cause I'm a big hunk of crime fighting son of a gun. So if you're looking to fight, come on up in the ring. You wanna be held tight, just about anything can happen in the heat of the night on TNT. Hubba, 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 heat of the night on TNT. Yeah.
Artificial grass in the Central Valley.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX. This is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. We are live.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
Yes, it's Free for All Friday. And yes, we are live in KXEX Studios 1550
And now, live on 102 point what, Guillermo? 6. 3.
Yeah.
102.3 FM.
You know how I remember it? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, well, that's
103.
Yeah.
That's
103.2.
Yeah, we're beating the competition like 1, 2, 3.
Oh, you beat him like a redheaded stepchild.
There.
We'll talk about the most politically incorrect statement you can make nowadays.
Oh, the redheads don't have a big union.
The stepchild. I was a stepchild. Well, as a child, I was redheaded and a stepchild, so I can say that.
A lot of you guys don't make a fuss, though.
You were redheaded?
Yeah. I was redheaded, man.
He was?
Oh, God, I was Opie Taylor. I was just as Opie as you could get. And then it started getting, and I'm looking now. Man,
Wow, I don't remember that.
I'm looking at myself on social media. I got to have Kim break out that Ronald Reagan hair color on
Piece?
My gosh, no, he never wore a piece. Shut your mouth. Did you say that about one of my favorite presidents? There were no hair piece.
That's an American right there.
You're my Ronald Reagan, man. Don't you mess with the Gipper. You mess with the Gipper, you're messing with me, brother. Free for all Friday.
Don't want to do that.
Boy, we already got the comments coming. Let me read the first one.
about ready.
Let me see the first one from our Autry's Army. Please go away. No.
They want
I'm
to know
just
who
kidding.
the third guy is.
I'm just kidding.
They want to know who the third guy is. He hasn't been here for a while.
It's Bubba's grandpa.
Who's the guy to my this side? I don't know.
That is the notorious, infamous Guillermo Moreno. Would you run for mayor? You gave me freedom to say anything I wanted to, whenever I wanted to on this thing.
Yeah.
You wish you hadn't said that.
You know,
You wish you hadn't given me that promise.
If I had 3 pastors
Your
come
mama?
to me
Yeah.
in the same day and tell me to do it, I'd do it.
Would you?
They got to be ordained, though. And you can't go get it online, Alan. You can't go get ordained online and have Bob get it ordained online and then get the producer ordained online. And then the 3 you asked me the same day, that don't count.
Well, what if you got a phone call and says, Guillermo, this is Oral Roberts speaking to you from heaven. We need you to run for the Fresno mayorship.
Well, you can't do it now because I know it'll be you still. If my caller ID card says Alan Autry, it doesn't matter what voice you have.
Yeah. Well, you know what he'd say? You know what? You don't need to run for mayor. You need healing, because if you're going to run for mayor, city of Fresno, something wrong.
I thought it was
I'm
Who do
kidding.
you have on there?
I'm kidding.
You digress.
No, we got some. But I want to start this off.
Okay.
You're gonna. To me, it's uplifting. There's a sadness attached to this story, but more importantly, there is a joy, because it kind of reaffirms your belief in mankind and kind of defines what a hero really is. I throw around that term hero a lot. You know, heroes don't, get hit 70 home runs. They don't 45 rebounds or win NBA or NFL awards. Those aren't heroes. Those are champions.
Yeah.
To be a real hero in life means you're something special. You're a role model. You have these things inside you that, in the whole scheme of things, really matter beyond the sport. Sports to me don't really have heroes. You can be in a sport and do heroic things on the field and off the field, but it has very little to do with your statistics. Whether you're a 300 hitter or you hit the walk-off home run in the World Series. Which brings me today to this subject that I want to talk about, just to honor the name of Joe Delaney. Now, does Joe Delaney ring a bell? Bob, it might to you. It did.
Joe Delaney was a running back for the Kansas City Chiefs,
Yes.
who lost his life
40 years ago.
trying to rescue kids from a pond.
Yes.
As I recall.
Yes, and I'm very impressed with that. Joe Delaney, 24 years old. He was just out
And
strolling.
a good ball player.
A
too.
great ball player.
Starting running back for
Yeah.
the Chiefs.
And I think he played at Nebraska, I believe. I may be wrong about that. Maybe it was Delaney was the coach
Joe
there.
Delaney. Wow.
But
There's-
everything to live for. 24 years old, is walking around a park in his home state of Louisiana. And out in a pond, he sees 3 kids, as Bob says, fighting to stay above the water. They're drowning. They don't know how to swim. Well, Joe proceeds to say to the fellows, "Look, I can't swim too good, but I got to go save them kids. If I don't come up, go get somebody."
Wow.
He dives in. He's able to save one. The other 2 kids die. They drown, and Joe dies.
Oh.
But
He died.
here's a guy, that's a hero.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It didn't make any difference what he did on Sunday with the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't really care about that. And you know what? I don't think Joe was sitting there going, what color are those kids out there? He just saw kids fighting for their life, and his sense of love of mankind and duty
And he said, I can't swim too good, but I got to go out there.
Is it a pond?
Yeah, it was a pond out in a park in Louisiana, my home state, by the way. And anyway, we want to honor the legacy and the memory of Joe Delaney today. And my goodness, what a man. I didn't know him, but you know what they say, the actions speak loudly as to the character of this young man. And Mr. and Mrs. Delaney, if you're still living, or even if you're not up in heaven, you done good with that kid, as they say in the South. You done good with Joe. 40 years ago, June 29th, 1983. Wow.
That's
when that happened. So, not to be somber, let's celebrate it. He's up in heaven. I have no doubt with that brand new body. It'll never grow old, never wear out, and will never drown again. Along with those little 2 kids he saved. I believe that as sure as I'm sitting here. So we don't mourn. We just are thankful and appreciative of guys and people like Joe Delaney in this whole cynical world, and how we loosely throw hero around. He's truly a hero. Okay, we were going to talk about the Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action, which, by the way, was never a law. It's an executive order. You know who started that? You know who instituted
I love trivia.
Affirmative action?
I love trivia. Democrat or Republican?
Just a wild guess. Bob, do you know?
Was it Jimmy Carter?
No. You would think that, right?
JFK?
Tricky Dicky.
Oh, really?
M. Nixon in the early 70s.
Really?
Through executive order, created affirmative actions, intentions well-intentioned.
I was going to say, coming from the 60s, I could see that.
Well, in the 60s is when the big changeover, the big switch, as they call it, happened, when a lot of the majority went from the Democratic Party to from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. And prior to that, the Republican Party, was formed in 1851. You know why it was formed? For 2 issues. 2 issues only: to end slavery and polygamy. That was their main foundational. That's what every GOP candidate ran on. That was the main. There was other things, fiscal responsibility, those things, but it was created a brand new party. People felt so strongly anti-slavery back in 1851 that a party was formed. Abraham Lincoln joined it, became president of the United States, issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and from that point on, you can point to instance after instance where the Republican Party, and folks, I'm an independent. I'm just sitting there pointing this out. If you listen to, that's why this woke far left doesn't want kids to learn history. They don't want these kids to know.
Oh, they'll revise it.
Yes.
Oh, they'll revise it.
That by good account, Martin Luther King was a Republican. Republicans were founded on anti-slavery. And you try to tell some child that has been educated in today's system, they'll call you a liar, a white supremacist, a revisionist. That didn't happen. But anyway, that's why history is so important, to know the truth. Don't be afraid of the truth. The truth sets free, and first it'll make you miserable. And for those woke racists on the left, the miserable truth is not every Republican and white person is a racist. I know that's a tough thing for you to accept, and there's a long history of it being just the opposite of the Republican Party. But the big switch happened when Nixon refused to back up Martin Luther King when he got thrown in jail for something. He was going to demonstrate someplace. He got jailed. And John F. Kennedy communicated with him. He sent out, "We're on your side, Martin." Nixon hesitated. And at that point, the big switch happened. You saw the African-American vote switch over to the Democratic Party, the party of which was the predominant party during the oppression of the 50s and 60s and the 40s. Basically, the oppression that began after the end of Reconstruction in 1879.
Exactly.
When the Klan took over, they were all Southern Democrats.
And Reconstruction with Grant in the White House at that time. And look, Ulysses Grant was not the greatest president in the United States. I mean,
pretty good. He
had
do a little pop off the old, little pull off the whiskey bottle.
He had some issues. I mean, he had some fraud in his administration.
All the presidents are much cleaner now.
But the biggest problem that he had, because he was a strict Reconstructionist, the biggest problem that he had was he couldn't get any cooperation from anybody in the South, in the government in the South, because they didn't want Reconstruction. Unless they did it their way.
In Toll Yuli's defense, though, he kept reconstruction going.
Well, he tried to.
Well, no, who ended it was his who followed him, Rutherford B. Hayes. And what happened is the Southern Democrats down there, the majority, convinced Rutherford B. Hayes that they would continue the policies of Reconstruction. Yeah. Oh, we'll do it. We'll keep it going. And so he said, okay, I trust you. Pull the federal government out. Let the states control things. And that's why folks on the right, you got to understand when people are for the Supreme Court, the executive branch, having a little check on states' rights in terms of voting rights. Because there's this battle that the states should have complete control over election laws and this. Predominantly, they should, but you can't have them have total control because that's what happened in the Old South, and that's gave rise to the Klan. That's when you had separate but equal Jim Crow laws. All this stuff started in place, and under the guys that, hey, we're they're not sovereign states, but we got huge states' rights that have the ability to do all that, and federal government, you don't have a say in it. So there's a blend there that you have to consider. But anyway, it was overturned, executive order. And I tell you, let me ask you this, Guillermo. We know for sure that the Supreme Court decision, a very active court, by the way, by any standard, whether you agree with them or not, the Roe versus Wade overturning definitely had an effect on the midterms. I think the analysis said that not to the benefit of the Republicans. The Democrats were able to hang that Republicans' neck, and you didn't see the red wave, and a lot of people think that decision had quite a bit to do with it. What do you think this decision does in terms of the minority vote that folks that may have been considering voting Republican? Will this make a difference come next year's presidential election and seats that are open for Congress and Senate?
Not at all.
Nothing near the
I think it's unlike the Dobbs decision, the Roe v. Wade decision, because I think the American people know and they understand that you can achieve the highest office in the land, irrespective of your color. And we have so many educational institutions now. It's not just the top tier universities. You have a lot of state schools. You have a lot of community colleges. So I think the need for affirmative action isn't as prevalent as it was when it was first advocated for. So I think a lot of people see it. I mean, they realize that, hey, if I do good in high school, if I get good grades, and if I do the right thing, if I don't even think they require SATs anymore because that's apparently racist. I think people know that I got a good shot of getting into a good institution, getting a good education, and having a better life. So as opposed to Roe v. Wade, I mean, that's pretty much in your face. You're right. Now, I'm happy with the decision that came down, but I think they're two completely different issues. One is not as invasive as this one. And this one, although it affects more people in the sense of, hey, I mean, don't you want to go to college? I think people realize that, listen, these educational institutions now are not only white institutions. They're not only Latino institutions. I think they know that the public university system, private university system, you got a pretty darn good mix. I would say this, ironically, we're not talking about the HBCUs, which when you look at educational institutions and you're like, okay, only, one type of person goes to these institutions. So I don't think it's going to play big. I don't see it. If Harvard were all white and Stanford were all Latinos and Fresno State was all Asian, Italian, then I would say, hey, we got a big problem. We need to figure this out. Yeah. But it's not a big issue.
Bullet, okay. Already we're seeing the Democratic operatives in the media, in Congress, everywhere, Hollywood, the coalition, if you will, the Democratic far-left coalition, already calling this court a rogue court. They didn't say that, a couple of weeks ago when they said that North Carolina could not draw the lines that they did because it was on racial lines and not good. They were celebrating that the court, ruled that way. And the left was just jumping up and down, way to go, Supreme Court. Now we're hearing the chorus, two things, calling this Supreme Court a rogue court and calling anybody who supports this decision, primarily Republicans, racist. Will they be able to use that and influence the the electric people on the left, will they be successful in doing that?
Well, they're certainly going to try because they've already started. But I agree with Guillermo. I don't think this is going to be a big hot button issue come election time. The majority of Americans are concerned about the price of food, the price of gas, providing for their family, and the real hardcore things of just trying to be alive, stay alive, and make a living in this country. What this is a totally different animal, and I don't think it's a big deal with. It's not a big deal with me. But
let me just wrap that up.
But I'm talking about you're not liberal. I'm talking about those maybe on the left.
Oh, they
may be
hate it.
thinking about, hey, DeSantis sounds pretty good. the
the
crossover.
will this send them the way the other way?
No.
I don't know. I don't know that it's that big a deal. I'm not sure. I think they may have already made their mind up.
I was going to say, Bob, you'll agree with me when I say this. I think the only two things that can come out of this court that would really move the needle, one already happened, which was abortion, and the other one would be gay marriage. If the Supreme Court came back and reversed itself on gay marriage or abortion again, those are really the only two, I think, critical issues that would impact an election. Minus that, I don't even think if they came down and they said, hey, you Republicans over there, no more guns. All right, Second Amendment is over. I don't even think that would move the needle. I think it's abortion and same-sex marriage coming out of the court that would affect anything. Anything else?
I think you're right, and I think this was a great decision, and I think it's going to expose the leftist rhetoric that it was affirmative action was the only reason universities have become more diverse, that they were forced to let people in of color that otherwise they would not have. That's the admissions policy. It's systemically racist, and affirmative action just forced them to let. Now, there may be some cases in schools where that was true. I'm not going to be naive. I think the vast majority that was not true. And I think something's going to happen that's going to expose this myth, kind of like what happened in Georgia with the new election laws there that you had to show an ID, basic stuff to vote, and all this, just basic stuff there that you do. That would any fair-minded individual say you need to have that to as far as possible ensure a fair election. There's no hanky-panky going on there. Starting with are you who you say you are? I need to see some ID. Well, of course, the racist people on the left, these hate merchants, people went, this is going to that's voter suppression. It's going to suppress the black turnout. It did the exact opposite. In the last election, you had the biggest turnout in Georgia history. Your candidate won, by the way, beat Dr. Oz and won. And I think what you're going to see is more people of color being allowed into the universities, because what this ruling does not say you can't consider race. One of the big things a university, including Harvard, looks at is not just your GPA. And I'm not a Harvard fan, but by any stretch of imagination, they do some good things. But
they rejected me. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Did they reject you? Well, good. You went to Michigan State.
Oh, good.
Well, you went to Michigan State. You were born
Did you get a
Spartan.
student loan?
We're going to get to that.
I got a lot of them.
We're going to get to
that.
A
lot of them.
All right.
Because that just got overturned. No, because you have to give an essay. You got to basically tell the story of your life.
Yeah.
And if you're there and you're an African American kid, and you're in your story of your life, you can describe the tough journey that included racial discrimination in your life, and you can put that on into an essay. And if you're applying at one of the top universities, you probably absolutely have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
They weigh that essay almost more than GPA. So you can race can be used as a factor to be considered. And so it's not the elimination. It's just saying, hey, this equity quota system, which is that most black folk don't want. Only 47% of black folks polled by Monmouth and Pew polls, two very reputable polls, believe in affirmative action should be maintained. So I think you're going to see an opposite. It's going to surprise a lot of people, and I think further weaken these race merchants like Al Sharpton that goes around just stirring hate up, and more people like Cornel West becoming the voice. You absolutely on the left, but you can sit down and talk to Cornel West. Lawrence Jones just did that last night in a fascinating interview, and it's the kind of discussions this country needs to have more of. So I think I agree with you. I think when the data starts rolling in, you're going to see more. And
isn't I mean, I'm not a real smart guy. Isn't affirmative action on its face discriminatory?
Well, that's what the Supreme Court ruled.
Yeah. Because they were allowing applicants above white applicants and certainly Asian applicants based on race.
Yeah, and what they're saying is, look, things have changed quite a bit. If you're going to go on race, it's just not fair that I'm just using this as an example. Bronny James, the son of LeBron James, a billionaire, applies to Harvard, and a poor white kid from Appalachia and a poor Asian kid that grew up in Fresno in the Hmong community that's very challenged and able to make their way up there are up. You only have so many spots.
You got one, and
you automatically pick Bronny because he's black. You don't look at it, and what the Supreme Court says, you can look at the whole individual, and based on need, you can use that. Based on need, if you're a person who has a tough upbringing, that can be used. What they said is, Bob said, you just can't say because you're this color, you get a leg up on somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your character. It doesn't matter how much money you have in a bank. If you're black, you could be a gazillionaire. You may have had a charmed life. You're going to get into the school ahead of that Asian, Hispanic, and white kid that's had a much tougher upbringing than you have.
Yeah.
Economically and everywhere else. He said that can't be part of the equation in letting young people into college.
I guess, and you bring up a really good point, because we do have a problem in this country with education. We had a lot of problems with education. And you do have those kids that didn't grow up in the best side of town, that went to school, did their best, and maybe their educational attainment isn't as high as someone else that had good parents that really they went to good schools. So I want to see, me personally, I want to see that kid from that poor community, maybe the first to go to college. I want them to have the upper hand and get in. So whether he be black, white, Latino, Asian, I'm okay with that kind of.
You're goosebumping me.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You're goosebumping me. I know. That's the way. And you know what? I'm going to boldly say, I use this disclaimer a lot. I'm going to stop doing it, and just say it.
You're a Republican.
I hate to broad brush. But I can broad brush this, and with good conscience. What you just said, I think the vast, vast majority, we'll put a percentage on it, Alan. Okay, 85%, maybe more, of the people in America have that sense of fairness, would come to that same conclusion. Look, if you live the charmed life, you shouldn't be punished, but that kid or that individual who's had the tough upbringing, that's really worked their rear off, that has it, you got to consider that when you're putting them together. Not that somebody who, and you don't want to discriminate against sons and daughters of millionaires. It's not just
hell yeah, I will, because they're going to be fine.
Well, you're saying everything's they could have an abusive father.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, you could have just a scarred rich person,
very true,
a poor person. But that's why they have the GPAs, all the community service that you do in high school, the essay that you write to try to get a full, rounded, whole understanding of that kid. Not just, okay, you're black or you're in. And most black people don't want that.
So true.
They don't want that.
So true. Yeah.
And this whole thing, I heard somebody the other day say, well, it's just, I said, no, the black community believes in merit-based decisions by and large. And I just used the NBA, for example, Nikola Jokic, right? They just, Denver Nuggets just won the NBA championship. Here you've got a 28-year-old big old white dude from Serbia. You don't get more white than Serbia. So big white dude, white is white. I mean, he doesn't tan if you put him out there just burning early. He'd fry up. He's white. And you would have 99.9999% of the black NBA players that aren't a member of the Denver Nuggets. And they said, hey, the coach said, we have a chance to get Nikola Jokic. What do you think? All of those black athletes are going to go, get him. Get that big old white dude. Why? Because he can ball. He can ball out. He's going to make us a winner. You're not going to get some dude, well, I don't know. He's white. I don't really like white people on my team. Well, he can pass the ball to you and you get your score. I don't know. He's just too white, man. He's a honky. I can't play next to that honky. Come on. What black person? Well, that's true in everything. When you got a choice between the guy that a black individual has a choice, or a white individual has a choice, he's got to have brain surgery and he's from the South, say from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and you got a brain surgeon from Natchez, Mississippi, and he finished at the bottom of his class, and only 50% of his patients in the last 5 years survived. And you got a chance between him and Ben Carson, who's pulled off miracle after miracle. Yeah. Who are you going to pick? The black guy, Ben? Huh?
Who are you going to call?
Yeah, it's merit-based. Yeah. Most people are. And then you want to listen to this thing on the left. Everybody's racist.
Heard a great discussion this morning with Burgess Owens.
Oh.
And he was talking about this.
He can tangent off sometimes, but I still love him.
Well, yeah.
He's like a homing pigeon. He'll come around, finally come back to where he's
But he was straight on point this morning on this discussion on a radio show. And he absolutely loves the decision. Burgess Owens is a defensive back for the New York Jets. A great ball player. Way back when. And he's now a U.S. representative. From Georgia? I can't remember. Anyway.
One of them racist southern states.
Yeah.
How they elect a black person. Tim Scott, how do you get elected?
He applauded this decision because he said everything that you just said. They want it to be a merit-based program.
How?
And so anyway, I don't want to paraphrase anything he said. You can listen to it. But he praised the decision. He liked it.
How racist to think of the majority of the black people in America think like Al Sharpton. Let's see a racist boogeyman around every corner that's going to take the funeral of a poor black kid and turn it into a political stump speech. A vast majority of black people think that's distasteful, just as distasteful as David Duke getting up and doing something like that. Yeah, I said the name in the same breath. And I think Al Sharpton used to be, he just lost his way. He's made his money off of racial division, and I think this decision, and when the data starts flowing in, it's going to be a net positive. And I think you're seeing more black folk out there like Burgess Owens that are afraid to say it. They're afraid to say it in the company with, especially the folks who are deep into the Democratic Party, because you're going to look like a traitor. But deep inside, they know this was a right decision to make a more perfect union. We're not perfect by a long ways, but that's a step towards it. When we come back,
can I say one last thing about that? Yeah, because I think everybody is always like, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. You got to go to college. And we're so focused on these high institutions because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the elite institutions. We're saying you guys got to wise up. You guys, that's what affirmative action was. But the reality is sometimes not every child or young adult that's becoming an adult needs to go to college. Sometimes they don't.
You saw that from Kerman High. Not everybody goes to college.
Not everybody goes to college.
But can be very successful.
Now, I'm not saying
can be very successful.
I'm not being anti-college. I'm just saying, listen, I think in the United States, I think we've drilled into the community so long that the only way you can be successful is if you have a 4-year degree. No. And I'm here to tell you, the way you become successful is you work your tail off. Whether you're flipping burgers, you become the best you can be at whatever job you're doing. You don't have to go to college. You have that drive. You love this country. Good things will happen. And I think we've been feeding our kids that, look, you better go to you better get a liberal arts degree. You better attend this institution. I mean, these kids they're not the same anymore. They really aren't. I want to see more kids. I want to see more kids go to college. But if they can't, go to a trade school. I know a lot of electricians that are living in a nicer house than an attorney, and a lot of plumbers that probably are driving nicer cars than a CPA.
No, I agree with you
saw
on
that
some of that. On some of that. And on another show, we'll get into why I disagree with you.
I'm not anti-college at all. But
I don't think it's you saying that you are. But I think it's worthy of a whole show of the value of a 4-year degree and why it's still so very, very important to play that game. And nowadays, with the ability to go online and complete your degree.
True.
Go be your plumber, but my goodness, get that 4-year degree. Why? Because it gives you options. Let me ask you before we go to
That's true.
you have Mike Trout, right? The baseball player. You heard of Mike Trout? Yeah. Okay, Barry Bonds. Heard of Barry Bonds?
No, I'm joking. I know Barry Bonds.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's use Barry Bonds as an example. Back when he played, minus the steroids.
Yeah.
When Barry Bonds comes up to the plate and he doesn't have a bat, is there any way he can get on base?
They hit him.
Okay, they hit him. Well, is there another way?
Well, you can
walk him.
Oh,
You can walk him and hit him. He can get on base. But in whose hands has Barry Bonds placed his destiny?
The pitcher.
Pitcher. The pitcher's got to mess up. Okay. Barry Bonds comes up with a bat in his hand. Any pitch that pitcher throws, Bonds can go out and hit. He gives Bonds options. And that's what that college degree does. It gives you options in life that are prerequisite. We had a fellow, Bruce Rudd, who was the best guy that we had, bar none, when I took over the city of Fresno. I ran a transportation department. I wanted to make him assistant city manager, but I couldn't. Why? Because to be assistant city manager, one of the requirements was that you have a 4-year degree. You couldn't. He was better than anybody we had. Couldn't he? Went to the University of Phoenix. Took him, I think, about a year and a half. Got his 4-year degree, and he became an assistant manager. Got a big bump in pay, and all these things. There's things out there in life that you cannot. Now, that degree may have nothing to do. They didn't say you got to get a degree in this, that, or that. It's a silly game, but it's still out there. You have to have a college degree. If you're going to run for mayor, somebody would consider you, okay, if you didn't have a college degree. But that would nag people going, no, I want my mayor to be a college graduate. And there's things you don't have as many options. When you get that degree, you put that bat in your hand, and any pitch that comes your way in life, you have a better chance of hitting it, getting on base and winning. That's okay. We're gonna take
unless you go to Michigan State, then you're kind of held back.
But I agree with your saying, get the trades though, man.
That's a whole different
but I
story.
agree with a lot of what you say. Go get your trade, but get your 4-year degree to have that up. You may want to change, and at 50 years old, it's tougher to get underneath that house and fix that cracked pipe.
I got a lot of
cracked pipe. Get up under the house.
Yeah, you
do
did
that crack pipe. All a plumber. Yeah, you ever been a plumber trying to go into that house?
Go to break
and use that crack pipe. It's tough. Comes up through the ceilings. This is Alan
a lot
Autry
of crack
for
pipes
Friday.
down here.
We'll be right back because we want to talk about student loan forgiveness. The Supreme Court shot that down like a duck going over a pond in Georgia. Shot it down. We're going to talk about it, good or bad. Well, call in. We're going to get some of the questions here too. We'll be right back.
Oh my word. Hey, by the way, I don't complain about a lot.
Huh?
I don't complain about a lot. Well, I guess I do.
You don't.
Because I'm a grumpy old man. We're out of water.
Oh, I know. I took the last one. And as I was opening,
where was that? I looked all over. You hid that. You hid that.
It was in the fridge.
You hid that for your own self.
It was in the fridge.
Yes, but you hid it behind something.
I did it. I think they hid it.
This is a whole new low, Moreno. This is a whole new low.
Intentional.
Let me tell you what I was going to do too. And as I was opening it, I said,
"Did you hit a little pod, a little coffee pod?"
You got whoa! Jeremy? Where'd that come from?
You want one, huh?
You were hiding it.
What about the star of the
show? You have more? Well,
Jeremy, et tu, Brute? Man, remind me to call you when I'm starving to death.
Wow.
I'm really starving, Jeremy. Can you help me? I just had 3 hamburgers. That's all.
I just have this tuna sandwich left, but I'm really hungry.
No, will you save that for yourself? Keep that. I've given. Okay.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'll open mine.
Oh, here's the question. Where were those hidden? we got any money hidden that I don't know about?
I hid them for Friday.
I could sure use that. All right, I guess not.
We got some phone lines hooked up in here. We find that money under the
we got a number that people can actually call.
Gosh, I love free
Man.
fall. Bob, we got some questions here. But Karen Rivera, the better option would be to go after these colleges with insane tuition costs. That's and you ever notice every time they give student loans, like they would give all this loans or loan forgiveness, the tuition costs go up at the universities. So it never makes it easier to go to college. And they have these unbelievable endowments, billions of dollars in endowments at the Ivy League, Stanford.
45 seconds?
And they still just fleece the kids going to school there.
I was talking to our liberal ex-professor friend, and I was lamenting.
Former high school. Right?
I was lamenting the fact that it is so cost prohibitive now to go to college. Thank God we went when we went.
Oh, man.
Because I would not be able to afford it now, even probably working full time, because the tuition is just so incredibly ridiculously high that you force these kids to take out these loans, and then they are immediately in debt, and takes years to dig out of that. I mean, it's crazy.
5 seconds?
Yeah. But
you're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
The Chubster.
Chubby Checker.
Chubby Checker.
You ever recall doing the twist in high school?
Yeah.
Did you do it? It's not a really complex deck. I could never do it.
No, it was not tough. But
I
still struggled.
That's how how little rhythm I have. I couldn't even do the freaking
Yeah, but you were
twist.
the big football star. The girls didn't care.
Yeah, but I wanted to learn how to
I got to dance with Carlos. No, he was so sweet.
No, I went up and asked one girl to dance in the 8th grade.
Who was that?
And remember you had
want to reveal? You want to reveal her name?
No, I don't. She's really. But remember we had them at the old gym. Remember the dances there at the old gym? No, this was in high school, freshman year.
It had to because we used to go to the west wing of the hall. Remember?
Yes.
That's where we used to have the
Oh gosh, yes.
playing 45s.
Yes. Remember that? Oh gosh.
So
that's when the hormones were first kicking in, man. Gosh, do I remember that 6th, 7th, 8th grade dancing? But I remember we were at the gym, and I walked across the gym. My heart was just beating like crazy.
Hey, palms are sweaty.
Oh gosh. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I walked all the way across the gym. And I said, would you like to dance? She looked at me and goes, no, I don't think so. And I stayed there. And well, instead of walking back, I sat down, hoping people would think that I just walked across there to sit down and not ask her to dance. And I sat there, and I look over, and of course, there's Doug Haney and Wofford. You weren't there. You would have done it. You would have joined in. They're just laughing and pointing. You got shut down, Hoss. You got shut down, man.
That was big to
never
humiliate your buddies at any time.
I never asked another girl to dance. 4 years in high school.
But weren't you were the king of the prom or something one year?
Didn't ask anybody to dance.
You were the king,
I went.
But you were prom king and nobody danced with you.
I didn't ask anybody.
So you were just wearing the
hat.
I
actually turned down some folks. I mean, but I was so embarrassed. I didn't know how to dance.
So the girls asked you to dance as prom king. A couple. And you said no.
No. Well, the one was Debbie LaCastro. Remember, we were supposed to do the king and queen of the thing?
The solo dance.
And Dan got mad at me because you had to exchange the royal kiss for the yearbook.
It was his girlfriend at the
time.
And
I'm nervous. And Debbie, and we didn't know what to do. And the photographer who was doing the photography, it was one of the students. He goes, okay, give her the royal kiss. I'm going, okay, give her the royal kiss. You guys exchange the royal kiss. And so we go down and have this man. He takes it, and you can see I'm kind of holding her arm there like that. And man, Dan got upset. So I just, my social life was pretty non-existent. One word, intimidation.
That's why he became a good actor.
All right. So the Supreme Court shoots down Biden's forgiveness of student loans to the tune of $400 billion was going to be forgiven. Right or wrong? Who wants to take this first?
Well, let's talk to the man who
has student loans. Who's spending money
for first-hand experience. I did not have those in those days because it wasn't expensive.
It's rough because my wife was actually asking me. She said, "Hey, Mr. Republican, you get." I know your wife.
It's your doorstep now.
Yeah. So, what if Joe Biden forgives your student loans? Are you gonna say no? Don't forgive him, babe? And I said, well, he, as my president, and if he wants me not to pay my student loans, I don't want to disrespect the office of the president. Hell yeah, I take the money, babe. What do you think this is? So looking at the amount of loan debt that I took out, it was my choice to pay $30,000 instead of $5,000. It was my choice to go and get an education at that institution. So I do feel a little. I want a free lunch. I'm not gonna say I don't. I want them to get forgiven, and I am a little mad because when I look at my mom,
You want them all forgiven?
I know. Well, yeah.
Well, there was
I'm not gonna lie. We'll forgive them all.
I mean, but look at the decision. It was based on affirmative action. There's a ton of loans that were taken out by people with families that absolutely could have afforded it. I mean, a multimillionaires getting those loans. There's a flaw in the system somewhere.
Well, see, but
it wasn't just, and also those that went and are working at law firms, they didn't come up and say, you know what, I believe in society. I'm going to go and start a radio station. I'm going to pull it up by the bootstraps and struggle along. They go, they work on, Harvard grad gets the big law firm, making millions a year, and now it doesn't have to pay the loan back.
Yeah.
When he absolutely could pay it back.
Totally agree to a certain extent. I think everyone has to remember, and I was talking about my mom, her student loans were pretty much nothing. It was so cheap to go to school, back in the day. My generation, the millennial generation, has got saddled with these institutions inflating the cost of education.
Oh,
we are. Let's just be real. I think when you guys went to college, you guys probably got like $50 a unit. We're looking at $3,000 a unit when I went to school on up.
I was going to ask you how much that
was. It was very expensive. So when I look at, and I'm not saying it's, I think it was kind of tipped. I think I grew up in a time when college was just way too expensive. So someone coming along the line saying, hey, listen, man, we can get this stuff forgiven. You're like, well, hell yeah. I mean, number one, I overpaid for it by my choice of my own, but we weren't as blessed as, the previous generations to have a low cost education. Well, and here's the other thing though. So let me tell you a fun story. So although I'm kind of like, whatever, I got to pay them back. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where you knew you were going to have to anyways. But during this whole thing last year, during the pandemic or the year before, there was a drop dead date where you had to apply and tell your student loan servicer that, listen, you want to be eligible for this when it came up. There was a certain area where if you worked for a nonprofit, and you've worked there for longer than 10 years and you've made payments, they'll forgive the whole damn thing. And so I said, you know what? Is this worth it? Why not? So I spent about 3 hours doing all that whole application. And like Joe Biden said about that prosecutor in Ukraine, they forgave a certain percentage of my loans because I work for a nonprofit. Okay. And so I think maybe, you have my view, you have your view where it's like, nah, you got to pay for it. Maybe we meet in the middle, and those students that came out with so much debt ended up going to work for a nonprofit that didn't get the millions of dollars. Maybe there's an avenue for that kid because they got so much debt, they're not making the $1 million. Maybe we can meet in the middle. But am I disappointed with the decision? Yeah, I mean, I could have had it forgiven. I'm not going to say I'm not. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's so bad, and then go home and be like, oh man, I wish I would have had my loans forgiven.
No, I get
I'm
it.
just being honest.
You didn't send back your stimulus check, did you?
I didn't get one.
That's like Carol O'Connor told me. Carol O'Connor was a far left liberal. He just come out. I've said it before on the show. It just cracked me up. He's so truthful. He had about guns. He says, I believe in gun control for everyone but me. He had like 20 guns. I mean,
I like that.
There's a lot of that out there. You take a stance on principle, then it comes where you could benefit or get hurt by something, and then you give it a little bit more thought. Pearl, what's your thing?
Well, I guess my question is, and Guillermo kind of touched on it, why the heck is tuition so stinking expensive? Where did it? How did it
therein is the scandal?
Yeah, how did it go from what we were paying? I used to pay maybe. In state, now you were out of state, which is a whole different thing. In state, I maybe paid $350 a semester to go to school. $500 a day.
That wouldn't even cover the lunch tab.
And most of that was for books that I got the week before the final.
That included books?
Most of that was for books. Now that doesn't include my off-campus housing and all of that. I'm just talking about school.
Was that added $100?
Yeah, it was another $150 a month. But
his beer keg bill.
So what has happened?
Excuse me.
Is it all because of the teachers union? Is it all because of salaries? Where's all this money? Why do they need all this money?
Greed.
And then
the government gives it to you.
And then,
so let's talk about that. Yeah.
And then during the pandemic, instructors doing Zoom classes, nobody was in a class. Did their salaries get reduced? I don't think so. They weren't even there in person.
Well, not only did it get reduced,
so this whole thing
it
drives me crazy.
If you notice, you go back to every time there's been a law change to increase access to higher education via a grant type situation or what have you, almost immediately these elite universities raise the cost of education.
Yeah.
So you don't really get any financial help. I mean, if you look, I never knew about endowments, the details of endowments, what it truly meant. You look at, especially these Ivy League schools, these prestigious schools here in California, USC, Stanford, Pepperdine, you look at their endowment, meaning money that alumni and corporation have given, it's in the billions.
Yeah.
I think Columbia has like $25 billion endowment. You know what endowment means? That's another fancy word for slush money, just money they have that they can do whatever the heck they want to with. They don't need to keep charging the tuitions and the cost to go to these elite universities. In fact, they could reduce them to a great degree, still have a multi-billion-dollar endowment, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
I guess
why? Because you become very powerful when you have that kind of money.
The thing that ticks me off, I'm going to get on my little rant. The thing that ticks me off more is these, especially like Fresno State or Cal University School, should be a school accessible for the kids. That's what they're there for. But you have a situation out in Riverdale or any of these small towns. They're preventing these kids from being able to get to school to go get a 4-year education because they know they'll be saddled with a debt that it's going to take them forever to pay. And quite frankly, they just can't do it. And that's what really pisses me off.
And it's tied into preferential treatment.
That's what really ticks me off.
In this case, instead of affirmative action, it is the legacy students. Because they say, when they look at your biography, they're going to look at where you're heading. Where's your trajectory? Son of a multimillionaire, billionaire, pretty good grades in school. You're going to have a good job, which means you're going to have money to be able to give back to the university. So, of course, we're going to let you in to the university. It doesn't matter your character. Things don't matter. They're thinking at the end of the line how they're going to grow their endowment. Oh, you're a little Hispanic kid from Riverdale that worked your way up, and you have MIT-type grades and public service and all the character requirements, everything that we would want to get into MIT, except your parents don't have any money. They're out picking grapes and sacrificing for you.
And that's
sorry,
what really is
door closed.
The ugly part.
So that's what I'm saying. Don't make it about race. Make it about that kid's story, where he come from, and have a good portion of spots available for those type of kids. And don't make it about race.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You're still going to have poor Hispanic kids, poor black kids that get in, but you're going to have some poor white kids. Well, praise God.
Yeah.
Poor Asian kids.
Yep.
You're going to have that.
And I
praise
hope,
God. Yeah. Poor Native American kids. Praise God.
And that's what these institutions have to do, because when you're in a classroom, I remember I went to one of the most diverse universities in the world, Andrews University. We had students from all over the world, top 10. And I remember sitting there, and there was a guy, he was Sudanese.
Did you have a Lithuanian pygmy?
No, but I had a Latvian.
That wasn't that diverse.
I had a Latvian girlfriend.
Oh, okay. Yes, you did. And she's beautiful inside and out.
Amen. And he was one of the Sudanese kids who, during the Civil War, trekked across the desert. With a group of Sudanese. And I was like, man, this guy's next to me. And you need that worldview you need that poor kid sitting next to that rich millionaire in Harvard, because maybe
who has the qualifications, not just because he's Sudanese, but part of his story is that, and you can weight that toward absolutely
exactly.
Man, folks, the fixes are there.
You just got
really
to let me and Alan be in charge.
When Bob chimes in,
I'll handle
and
the
Bob
money.
too, and
I'll
Bob
handle
too.
the money.
There
Thank
you
you.
you guys got two, Guillermo. You're just
Oh, that-
chomping a bit to get something. Go
You
ahead.
said
Take
you
us
said
out.
USC. How much do you think USC costs a year? 2 semesters. Go.
That's private school.
$200,000.
Yeah, you're pretty. Yeah, you're right on the money there. Tuition for 2 semesters, $66,000. Doesn't include fees, housing, dining, books, personal expenses, transportation. Total 1 year to go to USC is $90,000. $90,000
For what?
So that's 1 year. Sorry, 1 year. I'm getting all hot.
So well over $250,000
To get
$1 million before
undergrad to get an undergraduate degree.
years. Just in tuition.
That's
Or is
that's including food and
That's still.
yeah.
That's
So
still,
come on.
well, that's
So $400,000 to go to school. So when people like Joe Biden say, "Hey, listen, I want to forgive a little bit of your loans," and be like, "Well, that's a lot of money," and that's where I'm getting this generational shift. It wasn't that expensive when you guys were in school.
No.
So imagine if you're saddled with that amount of debt.
Well,
That's a house payment.
Yeah, there's no way. And that's why that's why I tell people I could never go to school today. I could never get into school if I had to pay
So I think
money
we're
like that.
zeroing in on a very
It
important
just-
subject.
So I would be one of those kids who would be eliminated
Yeah,
strictly
me too.
for financial reasons.
You would if I wasn't on athletic scholarship. I couldn't
you'd
have
have been
afforded
done.
books.
Yeah, you'd have been done.
But this issue of unbearable, unattainable college requirements in terms of the money that it takes to go to one of these universities, that's got to be addressed. That's an inequity, inequality
Absolutely.
that you talk about built-in systemically against all races.
So socioeconomic.
Against poor people
Yeah.
When it's
of all kinds because it's structured to be elitist by its simple structure. Folks,
are we done?
Free for all Friday, we're done, man.
Oh man.
Stick a fork in us. We are done, folks. Thank you, folks. We didn't get comments. I promise we're going to get to them more on Monday. I'm learning how to work this laptop a little bit better.
You need a bigger one.
It's fun to watch, folks. Believe
Oh,
me.
man. My brain is tired
I'd pay
after one of
admission
these
if I
shows.
wasn't here.
Love you all. God bless America. Just do your best. Let God do the rest. And we'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye now.
Till then.